What if I told you that before the missiles, before the assassinations, before the cyber attacks and shadow wars, Iran and Israel were partners, not friends, not brothers, but silent accomplices, bound by oil, enemies, and fear. They needed each other, and then they destroyed each other. History has always been told, but never like this. Here, heroes aren't holy, and truth is never clean. This is Histox, where history bleeds. It's 1966. A black Mercedes slips through the gates of a palace in Tehran. Inside, an Israeli intelligence officer. He's not here for diplomacy. He's here for a deal. Upstairs, the Shah of Iran is waiting, a man obsessed with survival. The two men shake hands and seal one of the most bizarre alliances in Middle Eastern history. Israel would provide surveillance tech, Mossad training for Savak, the Shah's brutal secret police, and access to Western weapons the U.S. wouldn't officially send. And Iran would give oil, money, and most of all, quiet. It was a pact made not in daylight, but in darkness. You've heard of Iran's nuclear program, right? But have you heard of Project Flower? In the mid-70s, Israel and Iran secretly started co-developing long-range missiles. Not defensive ones, offensive. The kind that could strike Cairo, or Baghdad, or one day, Tel Aviv. Documents were destroyed when the revolution came. But a few blueprints, they survived, buried in archives the public will never see. Then came 1979. Imagine you're an Israeli diplomat in Tehran. 1 week, you're drinking French wine with Iranian generals. Next week, you're burning classified files in the bathtub as angry crowds storm the gates. The Shah departs. Khomeini returns, and a new kind of regime is born, not just Islamic, but apocalyptic. First order of business? End the illusion. The Israeli embassy is shut down, and in its place, a new sign is raised. Embassy of Palestine, but here's the twist. Less than 2 years later, Iran is at war. Not with Israel, but with Iraq. And guess who comes knocking? Backdoor channels open. Israel sends spare parts for F-4 fighter jets. U.S. missiles rerouted through Europe wind up in Iranian hands. It's treason, some say. It's strategy, say others. It's called the Iran-Contra affair. A deal so dirty, so strange, that even Hollywood didn't try to film it. The friendship was over. But war had only just begun. Not with tanks, not with declarations, with briefcases, motorcycles, and burner phones. Throughout the 1990s, Iran poured money into a militia rising from the ashes of Lebanon's civil war, Hezbollah. What began as a religious movement soon became Iran's deadliest weapon on Israel's doorstep. Then came 1992. Boom! A truck bomb erased Israel's embassy in Buenos Aires, 29 dead. 2 years later, another explosion. The Amia Jewish Center, 85 dead. Investigators pointed to Hezbollah, backed by Iranian intelligence. But Israel didn't retaliate with bombs. It retaliated with patience. By the early 2000s, Iran's nuclear program was no longer rumor. It was reality. Underground bunkers, centrifuges, uranium. To Israel, this wasn't just dangerous, it was existential. And so, scientists began to die. Tehran, January 2010. Masoud Ali Mohammadi, nuclear physicist, gets into his car. A parked motorcycle explodes. He dies instantly. Then another, and another. 5 scientists in total, killed in broad daylight, some with magnetic bombs slapped onto their cars in traffic. Some shot in the head as their children watched. No one claimed responsibility. But Mossad's fingerprints were invisible and unmistakable. It was a shadow war, fought without front lines. And the battlefield? Tehran. But death doesn't always come from a bullet. Sometimes it comes from code. In 2010, Iranian engineers at the Natanz nuclear facility began noticing strange things. Machines failed, Centrifuges spun out of control. No signs of sabotage, no bombs, no traitors. The enemy was inside the computers. It was called Stuxnet, a cyber weapon so advanced, many believe it changed warfare forever. Designed jointly by Israel and the US, it specifically targeted Iranian nuclear systems. Thousands of machines were physically destroyed by lines of code. No airstrikes, no explosions, just silence and chaos. Iran retaliated in kind, training cyber units, launching attacks on Israeli water systems, hospitals, and even media outlets. It was no longer just Iran versus Israel. It was a new kind of Cold War. Drones versus Iron Dome. Hackers versus firewalls. Propaganda versus silence. Iran sent troops, weapons, and generals to support Assad. Israel struck back, bombing convoys, assassinating officers, even striking near Damascus airport. In Iraq, Iran backed militias. In Yemen, it backed the Houthis. In Gaza, it funded rocket production. In Lebanon, it fortified Hezbollah with over 100,000 missiles aimed at Israel. The battlefield? Everywhere. Goal? Never stated, but obvious. Contain the Zionist enemy, bleed it slowly, and wait for the moment to strike. A real armed conflict between Iran and Israel. Drone swarms, missile barrages. Cities go dark, deserts burn, and the world holds its breath. Perfect. Now we enter the final chapter, the climax of this long and hidden war. No more silence, no more shadows. Just fire. It started at 2:13 a.m. The world didn't hear the first drone. It was small, silent, unassuming. But what it carried was not. A swarm of Iranian drones, launched from western Iraq, southern Lebanon, and the Red Sea, raced across borders in the dead of night. Some carried explosives, some carried jammers, and some carried malware. Israel's Iron Dome kicked in. The sky over Tel Aviv lit up like a fireworks show from hell. But this wasn't a show. This was war. Within hours, over 300 missiles and drones rained down. From Gaza, from Syria, from Yemen, from Iranian proxies that had waited years for this moment. Israel responded instantly. F-35 seconds roared across the skies. Beirut, Damascus, and parts of Baghdad saw flashes of light, followed by silence. Underground bunkers were obliterated, convoys incinerated. But something was different this time. Iran didn't flinch. At 6:02 p.m., a missile hits the perimeter of the Natanz nuclear facility. Israel denies involvement. But satellite images tell another story. That same night, Iranian state media shows footage of funerals. Not just soldiers, but civilians. The fire spreads. Iran activates its sleeper cells. Within 24 hours, coordinated cyber attacks hit. Tel Aviv's power grid, Israeli banking systems, on government websites, and even live TV feeds, replaced by hacked videos declaring Al-Quds will be free. Israel goes dark, not from bombs, but from data loss, blackouts, and chaos. Hospitals overwhelmed, families sleeping in shelters, sirens every 15 minutes, water contaminated, markets closed. And in Iran, the same. US embassies shut down. Oil prices skyrocket. Europe watches. The Gulf states panic. But no one dares to intervene. Not yet. Because this isn't just a war of nations. It's a war of narratives. Each side claims it's the victim. Each side claims the other wants annihilation. But beneath the flags and slogans, one truth burns through. This didn't start in 2025. It started decades ago, with oil, secrets, and trust. And it may never end. 2 weeks later, a ceasefire, brokered quietly, without smiles, without signatures. Tel Aviv mourns its dead. Tehran buries its scientists. The proxies reload. The world exhales, just for now. The war ends. But the war never really ends. This was not the first time Iran and Israel clashed. It will not be the last. Because when trust is broken in silence, It always returns in fire. And that was just the surface. But the real war? It wasn't in Tehran. It wasn't in Tel Aviv. It happened in the streets of Beirut, in the ruins of Damascus, in the depths of the Persian Gulf, where drones have no flags and killers move like shadows, where war isn't fought with bullets, but with code, sabotage, and silence. This is the Shadow War. And in the next episode, we're going deep into its darkest corners. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and get ready to see the Middle East like never before.